Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. Black Heart is signing black in, asking you to hit that share button first, then you can decide like or subscribe for yourself because the message is more important than the messenger at this point. It always has been, actually. This message is about something that I experienced today with my non-ADOS wife that I had never experienced when I was married to an ADOS woman. My job right now is short of a few teachers. And even though I was transferred into a better department, the department from which I was transferred is still short. And I don't know of any new teachers that have come in to fill these, but nobody has been drafted for overtime that I'm aware of. On the women's campus, though, my wife, who works the same job as I, was drafted for overtime. She got an email the day before classes started. She was told that she'd been drafted to do overtime and it would be paid. So she was not forced to do it for free, but she has to do it. It was mandatory. At the last minute, so, typical nigga shit. She even looked at me and she said, "Is this what you call nigga shit in your culture?" I said, that's the complete definition of it. And she said, "But these are Arabs." And I told her, "Sweetheart, nobody ever said that Arabs ain't niggas." She laughed about that. And she said, "Yeah, good point." So, the thing is that she, since classes have started, for 2.5 weeks has been working overtime every day. She's got an extra 2 hours of classes to teach every day. She's been standing up while teaching. I have not, because of my back. She's been doing this day in, day out. And when I've come home, I have to tell her, "Sit down and rest. I'll get dinner. Sit down and rest. After we finish, I'll get the dishes because I didn't have to work overtime today." The thing is that I will have to tell her this because she'll still attempt to do things around the house, even though we both will do things around the house as needed. I'm better at keeping things in shape. But the point is that she will sit up and do it. She will try to volunteer to still cook and to clean. And I have to tell her, "You don't, look, you're already working as it is. You're working like I do. We work the same job. Secondly, you are working overtime now and you had to do it on short notice. You didn't even request it. Sit down and rest." And that's what I have to tell her. When I go home, I get greeted with a bear hug. "Did you miss me?" "Yeah, of course I did. Cracked a lot of jokes about you to my students too." No, okay, that's a joke. But point is, I get greeted with a bear hug and she does ask, "Did you miss me?" Now, granted, this is new, but when she does it, it doesn't seem calculated. I don't get any of that. The thing is that when I fell on hard times in the United States, as heterosexual black men do and did even back then, my ADOS wife was angry. My ADOS wife, she developed a resentment early on. It wasn't because I didn't try to pull my weight. No. I worked odd jobs, still trying to make it. And for a while, I used savings to cover the majority of bills when I didn't have a job and had to be on unemployment. But she got resentful. And I didn't blame her for how she hated the situation, but she began to resent me, and it showed, and it didn't take very long. She started looking at me like I was just a lazy, trifling nigga that wasn't even trying, when in fact, I did. I got laid off, and then I got these, all I could get were odd jobs that didn't pay anything or unemployment. Most of the jobs I got paid less than unemployment. I got to a point where what I did was I started working, and I would say, "Look, here's what I'll do. I'll do this job for you. I will bring you 2 bills I've got. Not that expensive, but I'll bring you 2 bills, and you can pay those bills because if I take cash, that's illegal, but bartering is still legal." And in this way, it could help us save what I was getting from unemployment so that I could still do things like getting my computer up to speed to apply for these jobs online, which I needed to be able to do. Because at that point, putting on a suit and tie was not going to cut it. So for you old niggas that like to say, well, y'all young niggas like to do everything on the internet, that's not real life. Most employers now want you to do things on the internet. They even want you to apply on the internet. I've been to places, asked for applications, left resumes, and they say, okay, here's the card with the website, and you fill that out. Like, I shouldn't have even been there with a suit and tie on. Why? Because the old nigga told me to do it. Been through that before. Mado's wife thought it was on me. She blamed me. I remember finally saying, you know what, you better off blaming God. Because there's no way I would do this to myself or you. Only people I would do this to are white folks. And not every last one of them either. But I do it to them. I've come back, and she has been working, and she has no attitude with me. She doesn't blame me for what they did to her at her job. Boy, look, when I was married to the ADOS sister, it didn't take long at all. Anything bad that could happen, I got the brunt of it. I was to blame for it. Something bad happened independently of us, I had to deal with the fallout from it. One reason I don't give you my real name, and I'm not going to, is because I'm using these examples of real life to tell you how I know that what I'm saying is true, but I'm not going to violate the privacy of other people that could be connected to me if you knew what my real name is. So I'm not doing that. But I am going to tell you, yeah, I was married to an ADOS woman before. Yes, it was bad. I stayed largely due to the kids. I wish to God I hadn't done it. I look back and I feel like it was hopeless because I now look back and I know that the only way that all of that could have been avoided was for me to have not lived in the United States in the first damn place. So I knew the country was crap a long time ago. I knew this before many of you did. I was one of the first African-American men to realize that if you are a heterosexual black man with some sense, America's not the best place. You just got to find out which one is, but it ain't America. The best things I got from America were a few products that I could get in some other places as well, and a passport. That's real. One of the worst things I ever got from America was experience with women. Bad to paltry. Not good experiences. And a lot of other brothers went through the same thing, and it's not because of a lack of game, as many of you would like to say. It's because of a lack of validation that they would get from their friends for being with you, because their friends are terribly picky. Oftentimes, and this is one thing I wanted to point out as well. When you're dealing with Western women, whether it's the black ADOS woman, if it's the black British woman, if it's the white bitch, when you're dealing with Western women, the peer group is pickier than the individual in every case, but most of them are going to choose based on the peer group. Now, if the peer group is positive and the bitch is negative, she'll leave the peer group. But if the peer group is negative and she herself by herself would be positive, she'll still stay with the peer group because negativity wins, and that is the essence of the Western culture. That's what you have to understand. The essence of it is that negativity has to win. And you see it when it comes to mate selection and dating and marriage. This is why it is that a so-called non-select guy has to pay a penalty fee, as Obsidian wrote. It may not be a tax, but it is a penalty fee if he chooses to keep dealing with them. I chose to step out, and what I'm finding so far is that no, actually, I'm not paying any penalties. And I'm gonna let you in on one secret before I close this out. After having been married to two non-ADOS black women and an ADOS woman, I can honestly tell you, and having dated ADOS women before that, I can honestly tell you this. Even when you are select in their eyes, there are levels to being select. And if you are a select man, you still have to pay the penalty for not being the other select men that you are not. That's what it comes down to. These are penalties. And I call them penalties because it's not just a matter of having to be more persistent to persuade her and to encourage her, but it is a question of actually being disrespected. In the long run, it is a question of being disrespected by these same women because of who you're not. So if you're a select guy and you're 6'2", believe you me, you still pay the penalty. You just don't know you're paying it because very few guys are 6'4", but you're still paying the penalty for the guys for not being one of those guys that's 6'4" and above. That's really what's going on. If you're a select dude, but your junk is average, I'm not going to talk about micro penis and your thing small. If you're a select dude, but your junk is normal, you have to pay the penalty for not having that extra member. That's real. It's just that when you're select, you may not know that you're paying a penalty fee because there are very few men that aren't paying any penalty fee at all. But you have to understand that these penalty fees, these penalty fees are serious. Now, one thing I would say is this: in many other countries, a lot of guys I know are saying that they're having problems with feminism in Brazil. Brazilian men are saying this. Western brothers ain't saying it, but Brazilian men are talking about these problems that they got going on in Brazil. Guess what? As they're talking about the problems they got going on in Brazil, Western men aren't talking about these same problems because they're not having them. That's because when they go there, these women are for sale. They're bought and sold. So if you want them without the feminism, well, you have the money to afford it. So that means that the Brazilian men have to pay the penalty of tolerating their feminism and having to do more to try to convince them. But what the Brazilian men are saying is we're not going to pay that either. But what actually happens in many of these cases is that if these women are not interested in a man, they just don't deal with him at all. And that's the end of it. That's generally what happens. Whereas when you go into the West and they're not interested in you, they don't say, okay, look, my type is somebody else. They just say, okay, well, I'm going to string you along and I'm going to get more out of you. You're going to pay more of the fee. That's where the difference really comes in. But in any case, that can be debated. Point I am making is that, yeah, I can see a much better start being married both times to the non-ADOS women than to the ADOS woman. And some say, well, what happened to the first non-ADOS woman? Well, like I said, for those of you who haven't heard the other ones, the only reason she and I aren't married now has to do with legal and political issues in her home country. It doesn't have to do with who she is as a person. I hope that this has been a benefit. Black Heart signing, black out. Assalamu alaikum.